So continuing on with pin escapes, we're just gonna look at shrimping. So like Bubba always says, there's more than one type of shrimp, right? The ones we're gonna look at is, the most common ones you're gonna see is something called a sliding shrimp or a rising shrimp, or sometimes called a power shrimp. So I know we did shrimping and guard retention and stuff, but sometimes the same movement, the shrimp, depending on what you're using it for, it can be slightly different. Just like we saw with the bridge, if you're bridging to lift the guy up, your feet and everything and your hip drive is gonna be different. For jujitsu pin escapes, when we're bridging, we're trying to turn kind of belly down, right? So it's the same for shrimping. When you're trying to escape a pin for shrimping, it's mostly actually to off balance and move your opponent's body weight. Whereas for guard retention, it's more for moving your own hips. Does that make sense? Yeah, because as we talked about, being pinned means they're using wedges supported by body weight to restrict your movement, right? Whereas in guard retention, you don't need to move their body weight so much. It's more for creating space so you can get your frames and stuff in between, right? So again, the difference between shrimping is you'll see stuff like this, where almost every beginner in the class, they'll do stuff like this. So this is termed a sliding shrimp for obvious reasons, because I'm sliding and most of my body, there's like tons of body contact. My entire side of my body is contacted, lots of friction, right? So you'll often see this done for warm-ups, and that's about all it's really good for warm-ups, because there's lots of friction, so if you wanna get moving, it's okay. There are some rare scenarios where you use it, but most of the time, you'll use what's called a power shrimp or like a rising shrimp, which is a little bit different. It's actually very similar to the bridge we did in the beginning, where you're gonna have, again, we don't want symmetrical legs, we want asymmetrical. The closer your heel is to your butt, the more drive you have, right? If it's out here, I'm gonna get nothing, right? So one leg's close, one leg's kind of on the side. And again, just like the bridge, when you're driving this first leg up, you wanna be able to point your knee down, right? And unlike the bridge, when you're going, like you keep going this way, for the shrimp movement, all you're gonna do is use this leg now to base, and you're gonna kind of jackknife your body to move your hip, right? So by having your points of contact only being in your shoulder and your foot, there's no friction, right? So you can really power it out to move, right? So if I borrow Corey for this, if he's on the top of the mount, and you try to do like your traditional sliding shrimp type thing, like it doesn't work that well, right? Just because you're kind of sliding, there's lots of friction. But if you incorporate with that bridging motion where you're like this, now the off balance is there, then I can get, and that's what we're doing the shrimp for in pin escapes, is to create that elbow knee connection, right? So once I'm here, you're good to go. Thanks. Right? So you can feel the difference, right? Between that sliding. It's okay, like, again, this is great for like warm up and stuff, but that's kind of all you really want, right? Like we talked about before, for pin escapes, to get that elbow, you need to have your foot higher than your knee to get that angle. And if you're doing the sliding kind of shrimp, you're not encouraged to get your foot up at all. Even like if you have your toes pointed down, it's a little bit better, but the gold standard is like you're bridging up, and then you're gonna go like this, knee pointed down, foot up if possible, to connect your elbow and knee. Right, so if you have time, you can review the guard retention shrimping that we went over. It's a little bit different, just like how the bridging for guard retention is a little bit different, but you'll kind of get to learn by feel how these movements